hold it now. Okay, that's better.
Yes, please. Yes. Do you want to pick? So far, it's nice.
Good evening, everyone, guests, community members, parents, students. It's so great to see all of you out in the audience this evening. So on behalf of the Board of Education members, the superintendent, and our cabinet, we welcome you to our Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, Board of Education public meeting session. It is now 7:33 p.m. So acting Board Secretary Columba, please commence with the roll call. Thank you.
Mr. Carlson. Here. Ms. Dowling.
Here.
Ms. Felak.
Here.
Ms. Franco Herman.
Present.
Ms. Harris.
Here.
Ms. Spina.
Present.
Mr. Todd.
Here.
Ms. Woleka-Jernigan.
Here.
And Dr. Spence Wallace.
Present. Thank you. Would everyone please rise for the flag salute? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone please be seated. Thank you. So next we will now hear our student representative report. Brian, thank you.
Hi everyone, can everyone hear me? Montgomery's Black Student Union kicked off Black History Month with a movie night and a matchmaking event for Valentine's Day. On February 2nd, Montgomery's boy basketball team defeated Thomas Edison Charter School 90-35 on senior night. The Science Olympiad team came in first place overall out of the 56 competing teams at Princeton University. Both boys and girls fencing teams won the title of district champions, and Rowan University paid a special visit to MHS to sing with the chamber choir. Make sure to get tickets to the spring musical Grease, which will be opening in mid-March. Seniors are looking forward to the Disney trip, and everyone is looking forward to spring break. That's all.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you so much. So now we will turn to this portion of our agenda for the superintendent's report, which includes the National Merit Commended Scholars student recognition and the portrait of a Montgomery High School graduate presentation. Superintendent McLaughlin.
Sorry about this. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we welcome Mrs. Corey Gaylord, Director of Student Academic and Counseling Services, to recognize National Merit Commended Scholars and to present on a Montgomery High School portrait of a graduate. Before I invite Mrs. Gaylord to the podium, I would like to highlight a few of the happenings throughout the district this month. At the high school, interested math students took part in an American mathematics competition this past fall. This competition, offered through a Mathematical Association of America, provides the opportunity for students to challenge themselves with interesting math questions that are curriculum standards aligned and of varied difficulty levels. Approximately 40 students took part, and of the 40, 6 excelled in qualifying them for AIM, which is the American Invitational Mathematics Exam. Those 6 students competed last week, and we await to hear if they are top national scorers to be invited to take the USAMO. After-school clinics run by the high school math teachers have started and will continue on Tuesdays and Thursdays until the NJGPA state test on March 14th. Students are working on algebra, statistics, and geometry concepts through digital resources around past released item language to sharpen their learned knowledge. If interested, there are fun photos on the MHS Cougar Den on Instagram that capture students in biology learning about structures and functions of organelles within cells. This learning occurred on Valentine's Day, and the students enjoyed personifying the organelles through rounds of fake organelle speed dating. The district was invited by Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman to participate in her annual Valentines for Veterans program. 14 classes at Village Elementary School participated in making handmade cards of appreciation and support for our veterans. The classes delivered their Valentines to and received a personal thank you from the Congresswoman. The cards were later delivered to active duty service members and veterans throughout central New Jersey. Now I would like to invite Mrs. Corey Gaylord. There you are.
Right up front.
To begin our presentations. Thank you.
It's the
So-
final one, Ms. Gaylord. It's the final one.
I know. It gives me great pleasure this evening to recognize a special group of students who have been named National Merit Commended Scholars. This year, we have 67 students joining approximately 34,000 of their 50,000 high-scoring peers nationally, having scored in the 99th percentile on the PSAT in their junior year. This is in recognition of their outstanding academic performance. The National Merit Scholarship Program is an annual academic competition for recognition and college undergraduate scholarships. The competition is open to all United States high school students who meet the participation requirements. First, they must be enrolled as a high school student in the U.S. and on track to graduate. Second, they must take the PSAT and MSQT as a junior. And they must attend high school in the U.S. or U.S. Commonwealths and territories, or meet the citizenship requirements for students attending high school outside the U.S. Okay, I would like to invite Mrs. Heather Pino-Lee, the high school principal, and Mrs. Mary McLaughlin, our superintendent, up to the podium to help recognize these students. Students, as I call your name, please come up to the podium, and you can shake hands, you can say hello, but we are so pleased to be able to do this at a board meeting and have their parents here. It's just wonderful. All right, I'm going to read every name. I know some students weren't able to come this evening, so here I'll get started. All right, Hiba Ahmed, please come up if you're here. Sai Bhavya Anand. Daedalus Arnold. AJ Balakrishnan. Magathi Balamurali. Ashton Basak. Tejasamitha Gomapati Kanan. Preksha Chandrashekaran. Audrey Chang. Kevin Chang. Pranav Chaturvedi. Amy Crook. Naomi Crook. Josephine Dambeck. Fiona Fan. Arib Farouk. Michaela Freitor. Omar Ganima. Arne Gold. Jennifer Gu. Nayanika Gupta. Sarah Gupta. Sanjeev Harikrishnan. Tanish Jha, Elizabeth Jha, Snigha Joshi, Ishan Kapoor, Tyler Kim, Adavan Kumaran, Caleb Lee, Sandra Lee, Joyce Lee, Henry Yang Gilman, Andrew Lim, Edward Liu, Caroline Liu, Kimberly Ma, Atulya Mani, Amy Mao, Annie Now, Rachel Mitchell, Sejal Molakasima, Shreyas Nerapar, Praneet Parhar. Rihanna Paul, Veronica Peter, Abhishek Pujara, Jeffrey Q, Grace Wren, Saksham Rostagi, Anton Sarafunikov, say that again, Sarafudnov, Ahil Sheikh, Hamza Sheikh, Daniel Shen, Mia Shao, Ryan Tian, Madden Totman, Tasuku Orabuchi, Grishith Vimaretti, Brian Wang, Sophie Wang, Zachary Wen, Sachi Yadav, Emily Young, Anthony Zai, William Zhang, and Caroline Zhao. 67 of them commended scholars. Okay. All right. Everybody can see over mine. No, you're fine. You're fine. Take the picture. Get the picture. Oh, it's the paparazzi. Never felt so shy. I know, right? All right, did everybody get their pictures? Congratulations, everybody. Yeah, like, that's amazing. Okay.
And since you didn't get to sleep in late, because we didn't have a good
Right? Sorry about that. You're right. And I know you're also busy, right? So we made sure we have this first.
Way to touch an early on. They're high schoolers. They live for delayed opening.
I know.
It was the right call.
Yes, it's the right call. We don't have to bring it up. Oh, we're good field trip. So it was a good call, right?
So we were informed it was good it wasn't a delayed opening because there was a field trip. See, it worked out. All right. That is a tremendous number of $67, I have to say. And you're going to see in the presentation, you're going to see how many we've had over the last 5 years. So that's really amazing.
Congratulations, parents and students on the finals.
Correct, the finalists will be next month. Okay?
See moments like that, that's what this was. Well, if you add.
Well, it wasn't 67. I'm thinking this year. This year. That was 59. That was only 59. It was between the semifinalists, finalists, and commended. It was this year. I'm sorry, 14. This year. No, this was. So I'm confusing this year and last year. So that was 59, not 67. That was 59 committed scholars. For this year's graduating class, it's 67. Yeah. So, pretty amazing. Our students are so amazing. I'm so proud of them, and I'm so glad we could do this in this venue. So I think that's really important for them. So, all right, I have the clicker. Awesome. All right, so now portrait of an MHS graduate.
Now we need the lights down.
Now, yes.
Oh, I have to move, right?
This has been my annual presentation for a number of years, and I'm really happy to do this. So, is this working? I don't think the clicker's working. Oh, there we go. Yes, it is. Okay. Just have to give it a minute. Okay. So here we have our little symbol, and we'll go to the next. So this is our snapshot of the class of 22. You see 374 students graduated, 92% are continuing their education. We have seen an uptick over the last couple of years actually in community college enrollment. And military is it's hardly seen on there because it's 0.3%, so it's not registering as a full percent. And any difference between these totals and 100% is due purely to rounding. And this presentation will be available on the website. All right, so here's the class profiles for the last 5 years. You can see we've really remained fairly consistent in many of the areas. Graduating class size fluctuates a little bit. Where you see it, where I saw a big difference was the number of applications submitted. And we will see that later on in the presentation as well. You can see as number of applications submitted increased, average per student, there's a decrease in the percentage accepted. That goes together, goes hand in hand. So I'm going to take a minute to look at that. Right. So now we'll talk about our advanced placement. So Montgomery High School offers 20 advanced placement courses in total. There are over 600 students taking at least one AP class in grades 10 through 12. So that's pretty impressive. And here are the scores. The green, of course, is Montgomery. And if you look at Montgomery High School, this is half of the courses, compared to global, way above, compared to state, way above. And why it's important to look at state and do a little comparison is because New Jersey traditionally is ranked number 2 or 3 in the country, New Jersey as a whole. So, and our scores are excellent in AP. We give about 1,300 AP exams every year. And this is the other half of the courses. And when we look at it, the average score of 4.49 or 4.6 or 4 point anything out of 5 is really amazing. It really is amazing. 3 is for anyone who's not familiar with advanced placement. 3 is considered passing. Colleges sometimes will accept these scores more often than not, only if it's a 4 or a 5. So that's also important to note. SAT. Okay, the SAT test reasoning and verbal abilities is designed to assess students' academic readiness for college. It's based on a 1,600-point score, 800 for math and 800 for evidence-based reading and writing. You no longer have the essay. I'm okay with that. All right, again, so here are our Montgomery's in green, of course. Our scores compared to national and state. Our scores are amazing.
Wow.
When you look at those scores, I mean, an average score is 500. So I continue to be impressed by what these students have accomplished. And something I added to the presentation this year that I didn't have in the past, here's a 5-year comparison. So what's really good about this too is you can see the consistency of the scoring of our students from year to year. And you can see that especially from 2021 to 2022, globally and nationally and in New Jersey, the scores dropped. We did not. So that's really important to be able to see that. And also to take into consideration that the SAT was not offered in April and June of 2020 due to COVID. So just some interesting information. But these are really impressive scores. And I like looking at the 5-year comparison. That's really a good length of time. All right, so the ACT. ACT is an achievement test measuring what a student has learned in school. Composite score is a 36. Now for this, I did not separate out the English, math, reading, and science. That's a big difference between the SAT and the ACT, is that there's a science component. The SAT did change their test a little bit a couple years ago, and the distinction is not as great as it used to be between the ACT and the SAT, but the big difference is science. So if we look at the mean scores for the class of 2022, again, we're way above national and state. And nationally, the scores have decreased, if you see, over the last couple of years. And then if we look at the 5-year comparison, so just for a point of reference, the number of students taking the ACT as compared to the SAT is approximately 1 to 4. So far more students take the SAT. In other parts of the country, more students take the ACT, but that's in the Northeast, typically more students take the SAT. The number of both tests dropped in 2020 due to the pandemic. In addition, the tests were not, as I said before, not offered in the spring of 2020. So that's going to be an odd number because not as many students would have been taking it. All right, I'm going to refer back a little bit to the National Merit Scholars, who we were so proud to recognize this evening. For me, to recognize students is one of the most fun things I can do in my job. So just to talk a little bit about National Merit, I already went through the requirements. So National Merit Scholarship Program is an annual academic competition for recognition and college undergraduate scholarships. And it's very meaningful for a student to get that recognition, it really is. And we will be honoring the National Merit finalists at a following board meeting a little bit later on. So over 1.5 million students in about 21,000 high schools enter the National Merit Scholarship Program each year. And about 50,000 qualify for recognition. And about 8,500 actually receive scholarships. So you can see how the numbers get smaller and smaller. And think of how many students we're recognizing, and compare it to how many are recognized in the entire country. It's pretty impressive. Less than 1% of the nation's high school graduating seniors qualify as semifinalists each year. The semifinalists have the opportunity to advance in the competition for about 7,500 merit scholarship awards. So how do they do that? So in order for a semifinalist to qualify as a finalist, they must continue to meet all requirements. They must be enrolled in their last year of high school. They have to be enrolled in senior year of high school. This means if a student graduates early, they will not qualify. Okay? They must have a consistent high academic record, and they must complete an application. So when they become semifinalists, they're notified. They must complete this application. They must take the SAT or ACT and earn scores consistent with the PSAT score that qualified them. They also must provide some additional documentation, including a personal essay. And about 95% of the semifinalists qualify as finalists, which is a lot. So keep that in mind. So as you saw this evening, there were 59, so I take that back the number I quoted earlier, but there were 59 commended scholars from this year's graduating class. For next year's graduating class, there are 67, which is quite a lot. In New Jersey, overall, there were 2,400 commended scholars. And how many high schools are in New Jersey, right? All right, so here's our five-year picture. So you see class of, in 2022, so this year's graduating class, 59 commended, three semifinalists, 29 of the 32 original semifinalists qualified to be finalists. If you add those numbers together, the 29, the 3, and the 59, that is over 24% of the graduating class. That's pretty impressive. So because the question came up, you see all those zeros there for semifinalists, and that's how you understand what the difference is between the semifinalists and the finalists, because they can go on, if they go on to become finalists. So almost all of our semifinalists have gone on to become finalists. All right, now we'll take a look at college applications per student. And this is, I have to be honest with you, the number concerns me a little bit because students are applying to more and more and more colleges. This is a national issue. The number of college applications are up substantially, and this is causing college admissions offices to have to recalibrate in order to get their yield. So, you know, in one way, the colleges look at it as, oh, we have more and more applications, so we have a lower admit rate. But then they have to admit more because not all those students are going to go. If you have a student who applies to 15 colleges and gets accepted to 12 of them, they can only go to one. And so the colleges are really struggling with this phenomenon, and it's been over the last couple of years. It was going down, and you'll see this in a minute, it was actually going down, the average number of applications per student, and now it's gone up again. But it's a national phenomenon. Okay, I want to take a minute to talk about our counselors and what they do. Counselors provide data to students to assist them with their decisions. They work with them. They work with them in Naviance and look at the scattergrams, which shows where other students have been accepted from Montgomery. They support any and all of the colleges that students see themselves attending. We recommend that students have, you know, something that's a little more likely and a reach. You can have a stretch, but you should have something that's comfortable and that, you know, is pretty reasonable, that you can look at it and have a reasonable idea that you're going to get accepted. There should always be a safety school, okay, for students. Counselors assist all students in the college process. They have visited many colleges over the last few years, including at least 26 of the top 30 schools to which Montgomery High School students apply. And they are visiting colleges again in person this year. So that's something the colleges were opening up again to. They were only doing virtual, but now they're doing in person. Counselors, some of them focus on certain unique programs or offerings. For instance, we have a focus on some programs in the arts, as well as HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. So that's a focus for our counselors to look at those specialized programs, and maybe one counselor will focus on the arts, and then she or he will bring that back to the other counselors, so we get that information. What else do counselors do? They meet with students and families individually. They do presentations to juniors and seniors in their classes, and they write letters of recommendation for every single one of their college-bound seniors. So you figure an average counselor has about 65 seniors, most of whom apply to college. They're writing a lot of recommendation letters. So, They've also created videos that they posted online for the college process. There's lots of information online on the counseling website on the MHS page. So that's a good source of information. I'll get to some of that a little bit later as well. Here are the top 10 schools that our students are applying to, along with the acceptance rate and attending. So you can get a look at that. Penn State used to be number 2, it's now number 4. So that's been a big change. Northeastern has really come up a few spots. Could be because of the majors that they offer, could be their co-op program, could be any number of things. But this gives you a good idea of where our students are applying. And then if you look at over the last 5 years, which I think gives you a better perspective, because there are fluctuations. Rutgers is a good bet. Okay, so moving on. Last February, we conducted a survey of parents, students, and alumni to see how we can better serve our families with the college process. And I'm going to be sharing some of the results of that survey of what they asked for, including what additional information they requested and where that information can be found. So much of the information they requested was already on our website. So this is a good way now to be able to show where all this information is available. So for instance, parents asked about athletics. What about the NCAA? Well, we have that. There's a link. These are all linked. So when you go into the presentation, you can go into all these links and it'll take you there. Parents want to know more about applications and Naviance. So we do, every September, we do a presentation for parents. We do it like a webinar, which they can watch during the day, and then we also record it. So it's posted on the website. You can take a look at it now. It's still on the website. And we also then we go into the senior English classes at the beginning of the school year. In January, we do a presentation for parents of juniors. We do it in a similar way, and it's posted on the website. And we go into the junior history classes. So that information is available at all times on our website. For class choices, the Program of Studies is a great resource. And a question that comes up a lot is how to find the best fit college. And the best way to do that is to meet together, the student and the family, to meet with the counselor, because the counselor can really, really help with that process. They are all excellent at the college process. Question about college essays. Well, senior English classes do it in the fall. They do a personal narrative. At every level, it's infused into the curriculum somewhere. The SOAR program, the summer program, there's a college essay workshop offered every summer. And then junior English classes, they introduce it at the end of the year. So that's a good help with the college essays, because that's often a big question. And the English teachers, especially the senior English teachers, they're really, really helpful. The student asks the teacher to read it over and give some feedback. They're very happy to do that. They're actually really glad when students ask for that. So, and the counselors can also give some great tips. Some additional information, how to get a good recommendation letter. The best way for a student to get a good recommendation letter is to get to know their teachers, especially in their area of interest. So if you want to be an engineer, get to know your math teacher, at least one of your math teachers well, and a science teacher. You may have to get things from 2 different disciplines. It depends. You really have to know what the college requires. Sometimes additional letters of recommendation are required for specific programs and recognition. So that's something you need to get from the college. And then some colleges like Rutgers do not take letters of recommendation. So it's just very important to get that information from the college. Some of this we know, but some of it changes too. So some of it we have to get from the college itself. So what else is beneficial to include in the application? Well, we have an annual presentation by a former dean of admissions in October called the Admissions Game, and he gives some really, really valuable information. And I have gotten such, we've had him come in for years. When we couldn't do anything in person, we did it virtually. And he has really helped so many of our families. And people can email him with questions, and he's been just really, really great. Colleges and performing arts fields, some of the best resources for that are actually the performing arts teachers, because they're the ones who went to these colleges, and also the counselors, because that's an area, like I said, that they're really focused on. For financial aid, this is a big question we get, and we really try to help as much as we can. We have a November presentation every year about financial aid, and there's a financial aid comparison worksheet that's posted on our website, and that can, when they get their aid packages, they can put in the numbers, and that'll tell families really what amount they're going to have to pay. And that's really important to know, and it's hard to calculate sometimes. So we have that, and that worksheet, I will tell you, it came from the gentleman who does the admissions game presentation. He gave that to us that we could post it on the website. There's also the FAFSA website. So FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It must be completed every year, both undergraduate and graduate. And I was really surprised when one of my children applied for grad school. He had to include, and he had been out working for a couple of years, he still had to include our incomes on that, even though he was out on his own and independent. So just something to keep in mind. So it must be completed each year to be considered for financial aid. This year, in addition, we added a FAFSA workshop where we actually had families come in. We had a representative from HESA, which is the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, and worked with the families to actually start filling out the FAFSA. And that was so helpful. I mean, we had a handful of families come in, but they were so appreciative that we did that, and I'm really glad that we could. There's actually legislation being considered that would make completing the FAFSA form a graduation requirement. It's that important. So everyone should fill it out. The other piece here is the CSS profile. That's the College Scholarship Services profile. It's not required by all colleges. A list is on the CSS profile site, which colleges require it. It's an online application used by colleges and scholarship programs to award institutional aid. That means their own aid. So all very important information. I think the financial piece, especially now, is very, very important to so many families. Okay, about transferring or a gap year. Gap year information is also on our website. Path After College, we've started with the career exploration classes, inviting people in from a variety of career fields to speak with students in related classes. I think it's really important for students to get exposure to different fields. So I want to talk about my kids all the time, but one of my children, that's how he decided to go to school for chemical engineering, because his AP Chem teacher brought in people in the field. And that's what really got him excited about majoring in chemical engineering. Transferring between colleges, of course, we will help however we can, but that's really a college level discussion. But of course, they can request their transcript from us, and we will certainly, if they want to contact the counselors are always willing to help. And I know they have. Okay. More. We have a lot. So students, what students requested. A packet or handbook for the application process. So interestingly enough, it's on the website. We also have class pages and a Google Classroom for all the classes. So that information is readily accessible to all the students, and we hope they avail themselves of it. And I told you before already that January we go into all the junior history classes. We also had an alumni panel. Last year we had an alumni panel. It was done virtually. Last year we had 6 graduates of MHS at various stages of post-high school life. So we had 1 freshman in college, 1 junior, 1 senior at Rutgers, Purdue, and Cornell. We had 1 in a PhD program, 1 in med school, and 1 a software engineer for Apple. And almost 90 students attended last year. And we did 1 again this year. So this has been very well received. The students get to ask questions. It was great doing it in a virtual form because I think more students attended. When we did it in person prior to COVID, and we would get like 35, 40 students to attend. But I think it's easier, they don't have to come out, you know, they can just hop on, they can ask their questions. And it really, oh, and actually, if you want to see this year's, we recorded it. So it is on the website. We got permission from the two former students who were able to make it. And it's recorded. If you want to see it, please watch it. They were phenomenal. The one of the students who was on this year, this is the third time he's done this for us. He just loves it. He loves helping. And the other student studied is overseas, so it was like 1 o'clock in the morning when she was on with us, and that she was willing to do that, and she could talk about like studying overseas. So it was really, the students really got a lot of information. It was very helpful. Financial aid scholarships are on the website and in Naviance. We post scholarships that come our way. We post them on Naviance. So students really need to access that information. The United Scholarships, which is part of our scholarship program that we do every year in June, is on the counseling website, and the donors are listed who have given in the past. Right now, the application is live for the United Scholarships, and it is due March 16th. So if you know any seniors who are applying for scholarships, they should get on it and get that application in, because there's a good amount of scholarships. Okay, another question was about the importance of activities and courses and what courses students take. Again, the great resource is the admissions game that we host every October, and of course their counselor. See, we have a lot of information available. It's great. I'm so glad to be able to share this with everybody. I put out a quarterly newsletter that has a lot of information, what's coming up, you know, links to different things, reminders. So that's something that's available. We keep like a year's worth of them posted. We also have a presentation for sophomores called What's Coming Down the Road, so things that they should think about. And then for test optional information, fairtest.org is the best resource for that. California State University system eliminated the use of SAT and ACT on all 23 campuses. The New York University system is test optional. MIT just went back to requiring test scores. So this can be very confusing for our families, but there are many, I think it's about 1,800 schools that are test optional. It can be very confusing for our families. So we suggest that you check the college websites for the up-to-date information, because it can change. But there's been a real push that way, in that direction. All right, and now my favorite slide, my last one. What our graduates are doing. So I have a Montgomery alumni group. I have close to 200 students in that group, and it's so great to hear what they're doing. So I try and change this every year to update the newer ones, but it's just so amazing what our students are doing. I'm so proud of them, and I reach out to them for things, and they respond, and not all of them, but many of them do, and it's so great to keep in touch with them. And yeah, I can't say enough about that. So it's really, really impressive. And this is my favorite because I like to know what they're doing after they leave here, because this is only a stop in their journey, and we try to remind them of that. This is a stop in your journey, and and so is college, a stop in your journey. That's not the end goal. It's something to get you to your goal. So that's my presentation. Thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you. thank you, Ms. Gaylord, for that amazing presentation. And yes, our student performance here in Montgomery is very impressive. I will not apologize because I do have 2 students that have graduated Montgomery High School and are doing quite well. And the Montgomery Township teachers, administrators, support staff really played a vital role in the success that they are experiencing now. So thank you to all of them for your excellence and for your commitment to children. So now we move to the part of our agenda, new business from the Board or public. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages input from the public. Members of the public are allowed 1 opportunity to bring any new business to the board for up to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. All comments or questions must be directed to the board chair. Before you make your comment, however, please state your name and address and write it both in the notebook provided at the podium. Being mindful of privacy rights regarding students and board employees and to avoid any potential liability on the part of the speaker, the board discourages references to specific individuals. While directing your comments or questions to the board chair, please understand that the public comment portions of the meeting are not structured as Q&A sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities for you to share your thoughts with the board. The board chair may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the particular issue has not been handled through the appropriate chain of command with the school district. However, responses may be provided at the end of this session. There are times when comments and questions will require additional fact gathering before a response is provided. So Acting Board Secretary Colombo, would you please commence with the timing and monitoring the public comment?
You ready now?
You're good.
I'm height oppressed, so I have this. Hi, I'm Jeff Grant, 6 Livingston Drive, Belmead. I'm here to talk about the recent jaunt to South Africa to consort and collaborate with the South African Democratic Teachers Union. My first remark, my first statement is you have to stop consorting, collaborating with South Africa and the South African Democratic Teachers Union. I've said before, Madam President, will you please look at me while I'm speaking to you? Heads up.
Excuse me. I will not.
Point of order.
No board
Wow.
member.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Turn the clock off. This is my time. Point of order. Well, what's the point of order about? So you've got to stop consorting with these people, and I'm going to tell you why. I've said before, lying and deception is the root of all evil. I'm going to add to that, ignorance is the root of all evil. And I'm going to tell you why. You were advised in December by a member of this community that the South African Democratic Teachers Union is a communist organization. And in all due respect to Nelson Mandela, he got rid of apartheid. But what happened in South Africa was a vacuum was immediately filled by Marxism and communism. So you were advised the South African Democratic Teachers Union is a communist organization. And where's the proof? Well, look, it's like this. If it quacks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, it's a duck. But I go on. January 24th, 2023, the Epoch Times. South Africa defends planned military drills with friends, Russia and China. Well, Russia and China are our enemy, Madam President. And friends of our enemy are our enemy. That's what you're dealing with. You are working and collaborating with our enemy. That was in January. I'm going to go back to October 2018, Epoch Times. South Africa's war against white people. I'm going to turn to the page that talks about what they do. In South Africa, the 9 years following the end of apartheid and South Africa's democratic elections in 1994, more than 1,000 farmers were killed. The death rate by murder for South African farmers is 313 per 100,000, perhaps the highest for any group of people on earth who are not at war. And these people aren't just murdered. These people are tortured. Women and children are raped and tortured before they're murdered. Talking about South Africa, Democratic Teachers Union, this is what you're dealing with. That was 2018. December 19th, 2022. Passing of land bill ignites farmers' old fears of seizures in South Africa. This bill is on the verge of being signed by the President of the African National Congress. They're literally codifying what they've been doing for decades, which is taking land away from white farmers. Literally killing them, killing many of them before they take it away. And land is the fundamental of freedom. Without land, you don't have the means to support yourself and survive. Without freedom and land, you are literally a slave. So you're dealing with a communist country that's white, racist, and a friend of our enemy. Please stop now. Thank you.
Take your box. Thank you.
My name's Paige Torgerson, and I live at Terrence Place in Bellmead. My interest has always been to preserve a safe, welcoming school environment for all children in the district, as well as parental choice for all parents. And I encourage the board to fight for the same. I know it's not new news that there is a disgruntled faction in town. I believe their concerns should be heard, and I commend the board on this end. I've been astonished, however, at the extreme efforts to both create chaos and to distract and deflect from real issues at hand by these individuals, both at meetings like this and with their online social media presence. I think it's noteworthy that this faction is often unappeasable. It makes me wonder, and it raises a question as to what their real concern is, their real agenda. What has become apparent is the need to keep the distraction game at an all-time high at all times. And when one concern starts losing traction, I've noted, because misinformation tactics are revealed, the concern often shifts. And what was once such a high priority is yesterday's news. I fear that we're going to grow sensitized to this type of inciting activity. It's important to step back and note the chaos and distraction game and ask, why is there a need for it? What I don't think is as apparent is the equally rabid need to quiet anyone who observes this faction in action. There's an immediate knee-jerk reaction to try to dig up dirt on anyone who just tries to engage in discourse. There's ambiguous threats to try to get observers to back off, and they are commonplace. At times, these individuals appear proud to spew hate, insults, and profanity unchecked and claiming they don't care. It's notable that at the time of the election, or right when it was over, that a lot of fake profiles popped up, giving them a sense of anonymity. But let me skip ahead to the lengths they go to try to quiet people. I had my late husband's obituary maniacally posted on some of these social media sites. He died 11 years ago. I had his picture used by some of these fake profiles as their profile picture, all in the need to try to quiet me. Why? I just asked why. Like, let's think of that. Can I borrow your box, Jeff?
Thanks, that's better. Hi, I'm Francine Pfeffer, 5 Mystic Drive, Skillman. My favorite place to be here on a Tuesday night. And I will say publicly for the record, because as with Paige, I have been lambasted a little bit on Facebook. I do work for the New Jersey Education Association. I am a lobbyist. I am an associate director of government relations there. I do not work with Jim Dolan in any capacity other than my being a resident in town. I did not even know that Montgomery Township was part of the Labor Management Collaborative that Dr. Rubenstein does until I read about it in the NJEA magazine, or maybe it was the NEA magazine, one of those two magazines. That's when I discovered that the town I live in was part of a program that my employer does, because the NJEA is a big bureaucracy. And I just say that so that people out here understand that I am speaking here as a resident. And I think we have a wonderful school system. I moved here because of a high level of academics. But as I watched that presentation, I hope we are also accommodating for students who don't necessarily want to go to college. I taught high school myself, and college is not the place for everybody. So when you talk about having a panel of college students, maybe you should have somebody who chose county college. Maybe you should have somebody who went to vocational school and did a trade. This is very important to me because the second school district I worked in was a vocational school district, and I understand the impact that can have for students. And this place we are very, very focused on academics in this town, and that adds to pressure on students who might not be quite as academic in nature, who might feel lesser than other students, because when everybody's talking about going to college and you're not sure if that's the decision for you, you often make that your choice because that's what everybody expects you to do. And the more we talk about it, it also becomes what parents want for their children, even if they know that it's not necessarily the right thing for their kid. Everyone else is sending their kid to college. I guess I need to be sending my kid to college too. So I just want to say that. I know when I walked into this building, I saw the portrait of a graduate, and when my son was in kindergarten on back to school night, that was the first thing they started talking about, was the portrait of a graduate. And what I wanted to hear was not what the child looks like when he graduates from this district, but how are you going to take care of my son's social emotional needs? Because he was a little leery of kindergarten, and what were you going to do to make sure he was okay in kindergarten? Not what he was going to look like when he was 18 years old. So I would just like to bring that to this board, and I challenge the board to be a little different. Instead of saying every kid needs to be college and career ready, I used this term before here, I said we should be life ready. I went to grad school with someone who didn't know how to make pasta for himself, and so clearly he was not life ready. And in my last 9 seconds, I want to add, I think it's a very prestigious thing that this district was invited to participate in a conference in South Africa. Thank you.
You're in the back. My name is Matt Rosenthal, 119 Woodview Drive in Belmead.
Can you please sign in?
Oh, sure, I can sign in. But of course I left my pen on. No, I didn't. I got it. I got it.
Jeff, I forgot to give you back your box.
Hope this time doesn't run against me on signing. Thank you, board, for continuing all the work that you do each and every month when you come to these meetings, and great presentations that come up and comments from the public and allowing us to speak. Jeff, I want to thank you for letting me know about something I didn't know, which is the South Africa, Russia, China war games, military practice. Yep, I'm gonna. I will. I just wanted to thank him because I did not know about that, because it's very recent. However, I did want to point out that there's some other rhetoric that was being just tossed around as fear-mongering. I think what Mr. Grant also forgets is that South Africa was ruled by apartheid for so many years, which was basically legalized segregation, and that he mentioned land is freedom. 10% of South Africans are white, yet they control 72% of all the arable land or the farming land. So if land is freedom, basically says most of the white people are free and the black constituents of South Africa are not. So when he talks about this land grab that goes on, or land reform, which is what it really is, and taking land, it's taking land away from people that had their land taken from them originally and trying to give back And it was, when you research it, they were only looking to take back 30% of that land. Not all of it, but 30% of it. And under the current rules, and they may be changing, and I didn't read up on the change, the current rules are you have to have a willing buyer and a willing seller. It allows that the white landowner can refuse to sell their land. It also says that they can't charge a very large sum of money and basically, can't think of the vocabulary word that I'm looking for, demand exorbitant fees. So there's a lot of stuff being tossed around here as fear-mongering, yelling, don't do this, don't do that. What we should be doing what is best for Montgomery School District. If we do not want to send teachers to this conference because it's too expensive, great, don't send them. But if it's about all that other stuff that's going on, it's all nonsense. Please don't take that into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Charles Hahn. I'm from 18 Oxford Circle, Skillman, New Jersey. I just want to refer to a document that was published on December 18th, 2022 at 9:19 p.m. It was from the South African Communist Party. It was an SACP message to SADTU's National General Council delivered by Madala Masuku, SACP, First Deputy General Secretary, SACP message to SADTU's National General Counsel delivered by Madala Masuku, SAP First Deputy General Secretary. It starts with, Dear comrades, I wish to express our sincere gratitude as the SACP, which is the South African Communist Party, to SADTU for the invitation to attend and address the union's National General Council. It goes on, but I'm just going to quote a few comments. It says, the establishment of the World Federation of Trade Unions was consistent with the call by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels for the workers of the world to unite in pursuit of the common struggle to dismantle capitalism and fight for a transition towards socialism. And what they really mean is communism. And it's, in my opinion, a misnomer that the SADTU, using the word democratic, should be replaced with minimally socialism, or better yet, communism. For a transition towards socialism and a classless society free from the exploitation of one person or class by another. It also then goes on, quote, deepening class-conscious trade unionism towards the emancipation of the world working class, and there are other such comments in that particular document. On a separate note, I have a minute. I have here the MTEA equity subcommittees. This is a bit alarming. I don't know if I can get to all of it. Board meetings. In short, this team pays close attention to board meetings. Did anything come up? And what was the response? Specifically, this team studies board meeting notes, watches recordings, and/or attends board meetings to gather information about how the district is progressing or not progressing in terms of social justice. The goal is to look for and note commentary, both positive and negative, made during the meetings by students, staff, and/or board members. Noting the absence of comments may also be valuable. They talk about members are assigned to meetings and may be assigned to look for specific types of comments, for example, gender, race, LGBTQ+. Members will share all findings with the liaison leaders. They talk about activism, number 2. Participate in activism at various levels, local MTSD, regional NJEA, national NEA. The plan is to build local activism first, including newly formed MTSD organizations and groups, including supporting... Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gabriela Zayla from Belmi, And I just came here to address wrong statement in December minutes, but before I do, I wanted to address this Facebook page that these people mentioned before me. Just so you have some background information, this page was created to defame your new members here. And if you need a name of the page, Mr. Patrick Todd visits that page and frequently comments. So just so you have all the information.
Please refrain from mentioning people's specific names.
I can mention his name, I'm addressing the board.
We have procedures.
And in the procedure, it says that I can mention his name, but I'm addressing the board. Anyways, what I wanted to address is that in the December meetings, I was incorrectly stated that I said that entire South Africa is anti-American and communist, and I requested to be corrected because I only said that I said it to you, alliance is to South Communist Party. They have the links on it, and Mr. Benanzi mentioned that I need to come here and publicly state that, so I would like you to correct it. Thank you.
Good evening. Okay. I'm here tonight. I wasn't really planning on saying anything. Actually, I wasn't even supposed to be here this evening. But I did send...
State your name and type it in the book.
I'm sorry. I did. My name is Janet Church. And I hope that I get the attention that I'm giving to you right now as well. I've sent many letters to the board, emails, regarding the December 13th meeting, the expense for the trip to South Africa. I've sent many emails asking for information. I got up at the meeting and asked for information. I have received no response. At the January 3rd organization meeting, Mr. Horn got up and read some of my questions. The board asked for those questions to be emailed to them. Still no answers. Finally, I sent in a letter a couple weeks ago asking if there was any attention for my for my questions to be answered. And what response was, and I quote, "Thank you for your email. The questions you posed have been answered previously at the November, December, and January Board of Ed meetings. All videos are available on our website." I don't even know what to say about that. I guess the word, I was trying to find a good word to say this, dismayed, disappointed. I'm really disgusted. That's really an inappropriate response. You yourselves asked for these questions. You haven't answered all the questions. This didn't even come up in the November meeting. And then when I look, I sent an entire list of timestamps and things for comments that people said and that board members said. And I'm just really disgusted that you cannot even just answer an email and say, "I'll get back to you," or "We're looking into it." Nothing. And you talk about communication being one of your goals. The transparency in communication does not exist. People are asking questions about the South Africa trip. I'm not even asking questions to do with communism or anything to do with it. I just want to know why we had to spend so much money on this trip and not put it towards other things. I don't know what line item this came from. I don't know where the $2,500 was pulled from for the insurance. Nothing. So I would like to know if there's a board policy on responding to public comments. If you haven't one, you should draft it and publicize it. What's the expected turnaround? I don't even know why you would say, I said this in an email to someone, so it's public knowledge. If you respond something to an email to someone, it's not public knowledge, it's between the two of you. So I think you should maybe have answers provided in the meeting minutes, which they aren't. The questions are, the answers aren't. I don't understand it. If you're going to say that the questions were answered, why aren't they in the minutes? The questions are there. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm standing because I noticed in the agenda this evening that there are 25 items listed as communication that the board has received since the last meeting, and some of which has been talked about this evening. What I find interesting is that it seems that many of them are repetitive, and they echo comments and questions and the same discussions that's happened at these meetings. And actually at a level of ad nauseum. It makes me wonder how much time this correspondence takes to review, deal with, how it makes the staff members feel when they're accused of various things. Makes me wonder what opportunity cost is for handling these versus trying to understand how we could improve the education of our students. It's one thing at a board meeting to spend an extra hour, as much as I love everybody here, to discuss these things, but there's obviously a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes, and so it makes me wonder about that. I guess it was the last meeting, the New Jersey School Board's representative talked about what a board does and the things that boards hopefully are looking at. And one of the terms that was used was vision. What's your vision for the success of your students? What are the next steps? What are your goals that you're trying to achieve? It was nice to hear about the achievements of our students, but I'm not sure I'm hearing a lot about what are the next things, and because it seems that there's a lot of time being taken up for things that really aren't part of the education of our students. So I'd like the board to consider that. If there are community members that actually see this tape, I'd like them to consider that and to get involved. Thank you. Rich Speck.
He didn't mention his name or his address.
Excuse me? Sorry. Wrote it down. My name is Rich Speck. I think everybody knows that, though. It's 187 North Street, Bellmead, New Jersey.
Point of order.
Thank you.
Hi, I don't have anything prepared. I just had a few things to say. One is...
State your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to do it and I do it. Thank you for reminding me so much. My name is Christine Newman. I think everybody knows that. And Spring Hill Road. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here, for all the time and effort you put into this, for putting up with all the crap, frankly, that you put up with. I can't even imagine all the time and effort and heart you put into this, so I appreciate it greatly. And I'm sorry that you sometimes are disrespected. Just a hodgepodge of things. First of all, someone mentioned the Epoch Times. I'm not familiar with that fine publication, but it is a far-right international paper that's affiliated with Falun Gong, so we can just take that for what it's worth. One of the speakers earlier told us the disturbing episode that happened when an anonymous Facebook account put up a picture of her deceased husband, and I feel like she has been abused way beyond that on that Facebook page. And there are people here this evening who posted insulting things about her showing up with family members. Not sure why that's a thing, but that she was insulted for that. A member of this committee's face has been used as someone's profile picture along with his wife, who serves on the township committee. People here are routinely harassed, and some of those people, harass people online, show up here and request that they be treated kindly. The hypocrisy is astounding to me. So I just didn't want to let that pass without it being mentioned. That's all I have to say.
I didn't write my name. Should I go? I'm not going to speak a second time. I'm just realizing I didn't write my name. Sorry. Take that to Merit.
So thank you everyone for your questions and comments. Superintendent McLaughlin, I would invite you at this time. We have someone else? Okay.
My name is Wei Ping Dong. I live 14 Lim Place, Gilman. Yeah, I right now.
And could you move the microphone over to your mouth?
Yeah, and tonight I just want to give some information about our neighborhood study program of studies that I found online. Because last meeting I gave a question about how our school district make our program of study every year. So compare Princeton High School and Plainsboro and South Brunswick, I didn't see anything about that, how to say, the underclass cannot take upper class, that means advanced class. None of them. Instead of that, they allow the student take the class that they can meet the prerequisite, which means, for example, AP Calculus BC. Their requirement is only A, that means only 90 above. Compare our school, the prerequisite is 94. Even though the ninth grader meet the 94, they still not allowed to take a AP Calculus BC because they are ninth grader. That means next year they 10th grader. Because our school prerequisites for this class is only to 11th and 12th. That totally not makes sense because our school district have a very advanced math program, start 5th grade. So those kids follow this track. First they take a pre-algebra, and then algebra 1, and then under geometry, and then under algebra 2, until next grade they take under pre-calculus. So they have a same class with current 10th grade and 11th grade. But the next year, only current 10th grade and 11th grade can take AP Calculus BC. They have to take AP Calculus AB. So I try to see this question for half a year, start at the beginning of the year, right? But still not solve it. And also I found our school district regulation size. Those students can have in-deep learning in this major. They are allowed to choose class that they select. So I think that the situation is conflict with this regulation. It's called a 2464 in our regulation. Thank you.
That'll conclude our new business public comment at this time. And as I was stating earlier, I would invite Superintendent McLaughlin to respond to any questions that she's able to at this time, but there weren't any submitted this evening. So now we'll transition to our committee representative report, starting with the MTEA report. Is Mr. Jim Dolan present?
Good evening, board members, community members, administrators, those who are present tonight and those who are attending virtually. What a great start to this evening where we had students, recognizing students, and the accomplishments of not just New Jersey schools, but here in Montgomery as well. It's not always about the success and about the numbers, but certainly it's nice to have that too. And it's also nice to support all students and wherever they choose to go after they graduate from Montgomery High School. Just want to share a couple fun things going on within the MTA. This week kicks off Read Across America, always a fun event in our elementary schools. Elementary schools themselves have all kinds of individual events and spirit days scheduled all week long, which the kids really, really love. And we have a variety of guest readers coming in, including Montgomery EMS, board office staff, supervisors, the mayor, deputy mayor, township committee, PTA leaders, and Board of Education members. So I know you all got an invitation, thanks to Stacy Anderson, so I appreciate her reaching out to everyone. And I thank you for making time. Those of you who are able to make it, Board Member Cookie Franco Herman, thank you. Board Member Todd, appreciate it. Board Member Dowling, Michelle Dowling, thank you as well. Board President Spence Wallace, thank you so much. Christina Harris as well. And I hope I didn't miss anyone. We have a couple open spots available.
Got one.
Sorry, I know. You were doing so well. I just fun. Thank you, Board Member Spina. It's always great to have someone come in new to the classroom and the kids, other than just a teacher or the principal or someone that's in their schools, all the time. So they really do enjoy that. If there's anyone else that wants to, we do have a couple open spots that we could probably squeeze you into to read. We have we're doing it Monday through Friday, obviously, so we have a couple more days left. And I will be reading tomorrow, so I have the pleasure of reading one of our books, Malala. Some of you might know that story. It's a really great story. If you don't, I don't want to give it away. So that'll be a fun one. Just very inspirational. Malala and her magic pencil. So it shows you what the power of one person can do with voice. So it's a good story. Also, we just wrapped up our food drive. So this is what we put a box in each of the buildings and the board office for MTA members and anyone else who wanted to donate food, to support our food pantry and any families here in Montgomery that have food insecurities. And just the fact that we do this annually, in addition to the other events that go on, shows that we do have a number of families in Montgomery that do need support and have food insecurity. So we're happy to support that. In addition, thanks to a nice grant as well, through Pride and the NJEA, we'll be also purchasing another $1,000 of food to support the food pantry as well. So that is ending up just today, the last day of February. And that moves us to March 1st, believe it or not. We're knocking on the door right now, and that does start our next fundraiser. We are celebrating Women's History Month, and we are pairing up again with the I Support the Girls organization. So we're collecting essential items like bras, underwear, and menstrual hygiene products to support that. So we did that last year. It was very successful, and we're happy to do that again to celebrate Women's History Month starting tomorrow. So that's all the good news today for the MTA. Thank you as always for your time, and thank you for coming out to read to our youngest learners who really appreciate seeing some new faces. So thank you all.
At this time, we'll have our board member delegate and representative reports.
Yep, I attended the Somerset County School Board Association meeting on February 16th. They announced that the Unsung Heroes event is happening on March 9 at the Hillsborough High School. Registration is on the NJSBA website if any of my colleagues on the board would like to attend. We do have a nominee from the high school. His name is Oliver Baroud. Oliver, I asked Ms. Pino to send me a little bit of information about Oliver, as the high school nominated him to the Unsung Heroes of Somerset County. So Oliver is a tireless advocate for student rights. He can always find the positives in life while celebrating the little things. In addition to Oliver's musical and theatrical abilities, he has a talent for putting a smile on people's faces and making everyone feel included. He is a hardworking and natural leader who loves collaborating with others, determined, passionate, social, dedicated, creative, and inclusive. Oliver takes initiative and shows up, whether he is showing up for his friends, himself, or a complete stranger. So the event is on March 9, and unfortunately, Oliver and the rest of the seniors will be in Disney, so they will not be at the event, but we can still support our county school district at the event. So that's all I have.
What date is that?
March 9, it's a Thursday, it starts at 6:30, and it's open to board members and school district personnel, so you can register online.
Any other delegate reports? Board Member Carlson?
MTSD. Yeah, so as liaison, I went over to the, virtually, on January 5th, I attended, 25th, I attended a meeting with the MCPAG Steering Committee, kind of a meet and greet, and with the whole MCPAG, and set the team to understand the structure and goals of these organizations, kind of a personal learning thing there. Then on February 6th, I attended the MCPAG General Meeting, a training session given by Nicole Pratt of STAN to the MCPAG members. Gave a lot of good detail and provided members a nice overview of the IEP process, what resources are available to families, and how and when to apply for it and to utilize each. That was a really nice overview.
Thank you. Any other reports at this time? Hearing none, we will now move to our board committee reports, starting with Assessment, Curriculum, and Instruction Committee. To which I am the chair. Good evening again, everyone. It continues to be an honor to serve as the chair of the ACI committee this calendar year. The Assistant Superintendent, Damian Papa, is the district co-chair. We conducted a hybrid meeting, both virtual and in-person participation, on Wednesday, February 8th of 2023. As a reminder, last year, Assistant Superintendent Papa and I met to discuss drafting norms when conducting our meetings. We presented the draft to the meeting participants, and after robust discussion, we finalized the ACI meeting norms. Those norms include: place students first, own your intentions and impact, seek clarity to gain understanding, disagree with the idea and not the person, tone matters, respect the agenda, allow for all voices to be heard, monitor your own airtime, and save committee space, meaning there is no judgment. Thank you, teams, for your professionalism and relevant contributions to ACI. Now, at the beginning of the meeting earlier this month, Assistant Superintendent Papa announced that on that day, the internal full-day kindergarten open house was being held at Orchard Hill. And the purpose of the open house was for participants to walk through the current half-day kindergarten program and learn about various positions to possibly recruit from within. Immediately following the ACI meeting, I drove to Orchard Hill. The open house was impressive, and it became obvious to me that the Orchard Hill administration and the kindergarten staff are working collaboratively in designing what the full-day kindergarten program will look like. At the end of the open house, the kindergarten teachers answered questions posed by their colleagues. I admired the teachers' poise and their knowledge. Thank you, Orchard Hill, for your passion, for the work that you do for students. Kindergarten is where teachers are tasked with many things, but when I asked one what her main role was as a kindergarten teacher, she said, to teach brand new learners how to be successful school citizens. Next, the Director of Equity, Data, and Accountability, Stacy Young, reported that the district engaged in many Black History Month activities, including morning trivia questions, a timeline wall, morning news, virtual library and Hall of Fame, and a movie night that served soul food to raise money for cancer research. As well, she reported that the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment will be administered to high school juniors on Monday, March 13th, and Tuesday, March 14th. And next, the math supervisor, Jen Rydell, and Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Professional Development, I believe, Fiona Borland, put forward a middle school math courses update. The new course titles include Math 6, Math 6 Integrated, Math 7, Math 7 Integrated, replacing the previous course titles pre-algebra and 2 algebra courses. The course titles with integrated allows for use of the upper grade level state standards to be incorporated in the curriculum. and the lesson planning. The scope and sequence for all the courses, as well as STAR 360, are aligned to state standards. The prerequisites for the courses will remain the same. However, MAP is switched out for STAR 360. It is reported that the MAP teachers are doing excellent work while resources are still being reviewed. The Director of Technology, Jeff Brooks, advised that incoming fifth graders for fiscal year 24 will receive a brand new Chromebook which they will utilize through to 8th grade. This feature declares the district a one-to-one for grades 5 through 8. There will be about 375 to 400 Chromebooks purchased. The Chromebooks that have been returned with acceptable quality will be used for testing costs at Montgomery High School. And finally, the counseling director, Corey Gaylord, shared that February 6th through 10th was National School Counseling Week. Feedback was provided toward the Portrait of a Graduate presentations that we watched earlier this evening. MHS began selection for next school year, course selection for next school year, starting with the current juniors. And the MHS scholarship application is open, as Ms. Gaylord reminded us, with the due date of March 16th. And as mentioned earlier, this school year, the MHS student screenings began the week of February 21st. Village Elementary School's regulation road took place with students caught being kind to one another. And Orchard Hill students participated in the NED assembly, with NED standing for Never Giving Up, Encouraging Others, and Do Your Best. The Orchard Hill Trauma Informed team put on a Great Kindness Challenge, and the DEI team executed a week of service. So this concludes my ACI report. Do board members have any questions or comments at this time?
Just a question, as we've had some community members come up and ask specific questions about programs that are available to younger students. Is that something that could be addressed perhaps after the committee meets and researches it, and we could provide that response in public to that member? I believe this was, a couple of questions were asked. Today there was one, but previously we've discussed GPA question as well as some AP testing questions. Since we're doing the readout from the committee, perhaps that's something that can be addressed at the next board meeting in public.
Duly noted, board member Willick Jernigan, thank you. That'll be remanded to committee. Board member Spina, the equity report.
Sure. The Equity Committee met on February 9th. We were meeting virtually, and I want to thank both Stacy Young, our Director of Equity Data and Accountability, and Corey Gaylord, our Director of Student Academic and Counseling Services, for attending that meeting to provide us with some updates, and we had a robust conversation on the AP. But first, we did talk a little bit about Black History Month and some of the wonderful things that our schools were doing. As was mentioned, there was a soul food and movie night at the high school. There was also trivia at both the high school and UMS. LMS had another movie, Sneakerella, as well as What Black History Means to Me video compilation. VES had a poster project on a bio of an important historical figure in Black history, and OHES had some similar project, but was done in digital format. I have to say, I was in looking at some of our websites, I also wanted to just note that at LMS, they had a logo competition recently for Be the Unity in our community. And entries are on the website, and they're really quite good and lovely. And they share a very simple sentiment that our broader community should perhaps consider. Most months have an equity-related theme, and not all, of course, but as Black History Month was in February, and it was mentioned that Women's History Month, also Gender Equality, and Irish American History Month, as well as Deaf History Awareness Month, will be coming up in March. So we look forward to seeing what some of our young students do to honor those different groups. We did speak about our adoption of a charter. As this is a newer committee, we had a draft charter that we've been working on. We're going to be dividing up the task of delineating the responsibilities by creating broader categories of these responsibilities with 1 or 2 focus points in the area of assessment, curriculum and instruction, human resources, policy and communication, fiscal responsibility, and student life. Looking to the future, this will allow the committee to then create DEIB goals in alignment with the districts and some of our board's goals. We also had a lengthy conversation on AP courses and the equity in those. There are many topics that the Equity Committee will likely take a deeper dive into as we determine how we can be as knowledgeable and prepared as possible to support our district DEI work. This month, we examined data on AP course enrollment and student demographics. In order to align our discussion, we reviewed a recent publication from AmericanProgress.org entitled Closing Advanced Coursework Equity Gaps for All Students. Of note, there is a noticeable discrepancy in certain demographics such as gender and ethnicity correlations to the whole student body. As an example, there's larger representation from our Asian students in almost all APs as compared to the demographic distribution of all students. There is a larger ratio of female to male students in literature, language, and arts AP courses, and a larger male to female ratio in our STEM fields. The discussion that followed was focused on why such a discrepancy between general population and the AP population, why some students that might be eligible to take APs but perhaps do not, how to appeal to students that are not currently enrolled to consider this opportunity. We discussed the course selection process, how our counselors sit down with our students and plan starting in 8th grade throughout their high school career. What are your plans for next year and long-term in balancing rigorous course loads as well as all of their extracurricular activities. We also talked about alternatives to APs that provide some of the same opportunities to students to take more rigorous coursework and perhaps get college credit. And we discussed a potential beta test with dual enrollment that we can look into at Seton Hall, whereby our faculty would apply to teach an accredited course. Our next meeting will be on March 16th, and we will be looking at faculty recruitment and retention information. Are there any questions from any board members?
Actually, I had to add one extra comment just because as we were reviewing those AP courses and the data that Stacy provided, we realized how much more data we actually need. And that was such a good reflection, and I really appreciate the solution that Mary suggested, which is maybe evaluating a potential to do another strategic plan, because the one that we had last time was done in 2017, so it's been 6 years, so maybe now it's about probably a good time, especially after COVID, right, to revisit what we need to potentially address in our district. So after this meeting, because I did not realize that this document is actually online, I read it, and it's a fantastic read. I mean, I encourage everyone to do it. It was such an incredible job that the group that prepared that report did, that I really look forward to that initiative for the next strategic plan.
Just one more comment, Maria, in regards to the counseling services that are offered to our students. We had healthy discussion in what is available to our students today, and I think we did find some areas of improvement that we are going to continue focusing on broadly, just to make sure that all of our students get proper attention from their counselors as they are going through not only selection of their courses, but potential for their future, whether that includes college or doesn't include college, right? I think those are the discussions that need to take place more in the school district.
Thank you, Board Member Stina. Next, we have Secretary B. Todd, our Operations, Facilities, and Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Madam President. The Operations, Facilities, and Finance Committee met on February 10th. We had 4 main points of discussion. First one being transportation. We have bids go out to contractors to handle additional transportation needs by the district due to statewide driver shortages. Bids were due February 17th, and the winning bid is reflected in agenda item 3.9. Second item we addressed was the unpaid meal account. This is basically addresses students with negative account balances. The district continues to work with our food service vendor, Mascios, to resolve this issue. Communications have been sent out to parents by Mascios whose accounts are delinquent. We will continue to work with Mascios to address this issue to minimize the impact that this will have on the district. A couple points of discussion we had around that is to possibly flag students' accounts. We quickly downplayed that because we do not want to embarrass any student. This is, the majority of the accounts are paid for by the parents, so this is kind of a parent issue. So we're going to have some more communications of putting notices on the website to address this issue, and as I said, to minimize the impact on the district. Third item we talked about was the budget. The budget has not been finalized as of yet, as the figures for the state aid are due to receive this Thursday, March 2nd. There remains a gap between projected revenues and requested items. There's still ongoing discussions to minimize this gap. The tentative budget will be presented at the March 14th meeting in preparation for presenting it for county review by March 20th, and with hopes of final adoption at the April meeting. Last item we discussed was the fiscal year 2022 audit update. The audit report is still being finalized and will be reviewed and discussed at the March 10th OFF meeting. Committee members, any comments, questions? Board members, comments, questions?
Thank you, Secretary Todd. So we have Policy and Communications Committee. Board members out.
Good evening. We met on February 9th at 8 a.m. virtually, and to begin, we discussed several policies. First policy was number 3283, which has to do with the electronic communications between teaching staff members and students. The policy is reviewed every year with the staff at the start of every school year, and it was suggested that sorry, that's the next policy. Then we also reviewed policy 3321, which is the evaluation of teachers, and the superintendent will remind the principals to again review the policy at staff meetings. We went into a bit of a discussion in terms of the evaluation of teachers. We were told and basically educated that the district does use the Danielson model for teacher evaluations, and this model includes a worldwide view of the teacher practice, and it's very reputable in terms of a tool. Evaluations are based on 4 domains of teaching responsibility. Teachers are evaluated by both the principals and the supervisors to ensure that more than one person observes the teacher and observations are equitable throughout the year. Conversation also led us to conversations are also held after the evaluation to ensure that there is open dialogue between the evaluator and the teacher. There are evaluation reps at each building who talk to teachers and check in to see how they are doing. Then we sort of posed several questions around the evaluation process, whether teachers should be surveyed as to how they feel the process is going and any concerns that they may have. And consensus was reached that perhaps surveys need to be used judiciously, and that there are other multiple modalities to be able to voice concerns, particularly from teachers in terms of their evaluation process. We also discussed policies 1648.11 and 1648.13, the road forward COVID-19 health and safety and school employee vaccination requirements. And I'm sure we're all pleased to hear that these policies are abolished. Committees agreed that these policies are outdated and should be abolished. Moving on to the communication piece of our meeting, First, one of the committee members brought up the idea of the district calendar of events, and that a district calendar does not exist on the website. Each school updates their individual school calendar with events that then get populated into the district calendar. And there was some of the principals are needing to do a little bit of a better job to make sure that all the information gets onto those calendars, and they will do so. Communication to the public was another topic that came up under the heading of communication. Communication from the schools is robust. All parents receive through Genesis at the beginning of the year information to be read and sign off that they have read it. Me being a parent, I know that I quickly check those off, but we need to be disciplined about making sure that parents know that that information is there and that they should take a moment to read it. Most school handbooks detail the chain of command to inform parents on the steps to take to communicate with the schools. And moving forward, all school handbooks will include this information. We also discussed communication among board members and communication to the public at Board of Education meetings and among board members. Policy 0170, public correspondence, addresses written communication to the board. Item number 4 in this policy addresses the appropriate response to individual written communication. There are 2 public comment sections on the board agenda. It should be noted that it is public comment and public questions. Some comments may contain a question, but in general, this time is a time for the public to speak and voice their comments. It seems that during public comment, there are some of the same questions being asked week after week. How can we handle this? The instruction on the board agenda for public comment should be re-looked at and clarified if necessary. And as the chair of the Policy and Communication Committee, I have requested a meeting to continue this conversation first with the superintendent and with the president of the board, and then we will continue to talk about it in committee and bring it back to the Board of Education. We did not get to 2 items on the agenda, which was the status of the communication director hire and the internal communications committee. So we will loop back to that at our next committee meeting, which will take place on March 9th. Any comments or questions?
Actually, I could give you a little comment on the communications.
Oh, terrific.
Person.
Correct, terrific.
That position is close to being finalized.
Okay.
We are reviewing in HRC the job description currently. We hope to have that, put out for hire sometime in the spring to summer, right before school starts. But it's absolutely, it's coming.
It's moving.
It's
Okay,
moving.
in the right direction.
Yes.
Great.
Awesome, great. I just have a comment in terms of the issue, Board Member Dowling, that you referenced in terms of communication among the board members. I think it's critical that our communication is conducted publicly, and that's what's stated in the Open Public Meetings Act. There's been a significant increase in the number of email communication regarding board matters, one way or another. All of our matters are aligned to our 5 committees that we report on monthly. I also followed up with the New Jersey School Boards Association training department, germane to sending emails and blind copying all of the board members. And I'm waiting for New Jersey School Boards Association, their training department, to get back to me. But when I mentioned it to them, it was communicated to me that that is not consistent with the training manuals and packets that they facilitate and advise to whether new or veteran board members. So we do, as a Board of Education, have a responsibility to adhere to those guidelines in the Open Public Meeting Act. So when there are concerns, they are either first to be addressed through your committee, and then after the committee report, it is at that time that you may submit your questions or comments. And I will follow up with this Board of Education at our March 14th board meeting, because then I'll have clarity and be able to speak in more detail about that.
I also have some comments I'd like to add on, as I also co-sit with Michelle on the policy committee. Just as you've stated and you've read the policy of how we communicate, I think this is our only opportunity to communicate together as a board in public. So I would like to have a discussion at our next committee meeting in regards to some changes we'd like to make to the current service that we utilize for policy writing. And also I'd like to bring up another policy that hopefully we can address, and that is utilization of facilities. I know we've made some tweaks to it based on previous issues. I think community has been coming up, raising some concerns on the accountability and responsibility of approvals, etc. So I would like us to really take a look at it and see if we can address some of those concerns from the community in those policies. So if we could make a note of that and then have that discussion, that would be great.
Board Member Jernigan, could you please be specific in terms of the community's concerns and how that aligns to our facilities use policy, just so I can have a better understanding?
I'm referencing the fact of how our VES was utilized for an event by MTEA. I think there's a lot of community members that are concerned. I would like to review the policy. I don't think we ever really answered how the approval works and who is accountable for making those decisions.
I think we did. I think we made it clear that the principal of the 5 schools and the school business administrator are involved in making those decisions.
So I would like to propose that we perhaps revisit that and see if there's any other language we would want to add to the policy to make it a little bit more structured.
I was under the impression that it is structured, but the superintendent could advise us accordingly.
I would second that. I think that's a good conversation.
Yeah.
It's noted as a next agenda item for the committee.
Thank you.
I have one more point, Madam President. Michelle, could you also take a look at policy 8550 that pertains to the unpaid meal account? To see,
Unpaid, sorry?
Unpaid meal balance account?
Yes.
To see if it needs to be strengthened?
Yes.
Thank you.
8550. Got it.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to move to hearing none. We're going to move to our Human Resources Committee report. First, VP Franklin Herman.
Yes, HRC met on February 14. Apart from personal agenda items, we discussed current vacancies and recruitment and hiring strategies throughout the district. School administration is coming together to share best practices and consider looking at standards across all schools. At the Somerset County School Board meeting, it was also brought up, just because it's related to teacher shortage, it was also brought up that the task force that the Murphy administration set up back in December, whose goal it is to develop short and long-term recommendations to increase the quantity of K-12 school staff. Initial recommendations from that committee are coming out soon, so hopefully the NJSBA will be sharing to its members the recommendations from that task force. But I also wanted to share that we are still currently interviewing for the business administrator position. We hope to have somebody by March because Mr. Venanzi's contract with us is ending in March, end of March, so we're still interviewing for that position. And for those who do not know, Mr. Richards is retiring as well, so the LMS lower middle school principal vacancy will be posted shortly, and appointments are expected for a July 1st start. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments by board members?
I don't know if, could be, that would be for you, but one of the community members talked about our core values, goals. Is that something that we probably should spend some time here? I don't know if that would be part of your community, or do we do it in public? If you could provide me some guidance on that.
What exactly was the comment? I do not recall about what core values. If we're talking about human resources, are we talking about school district? Are we talking about staff? I don't recall exactly what was.
No, yeah, go ahead.
No, see, I think that's something that can and will be addressed during the board retreat that we haven't scheduled yet.
Okay, so that's not something we would want to, that we will present that to the public after we complete it at the board.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now I guess we can rise to the officer's report that I give. Okay. So first, I'd like to give a shout out to the co-author of tonight's report, photographer mom, Kendall 1975. That is her Instagram handle. I hope I said that correctly. Make my children proud. And please forgive me, everyone. Tonight, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, I am under the weather, so please forgive my inattentiveness and my poor sounding voice this evening. So, I invite you to take a look at the picture behind me on the screen as I share with you that 2 of my 5 children and all my immediate family members proudly proclaim to be a part of the Montgomery Township basketball program family. Over the past 12 years, I've watched the varsity basketball teams come up against formidable opponents, like when we beat Ridge High School in the winter of 2014. And that put us in New Jersey's top 20 ranking among all varsity basketball programs, public, private, and parochial. Or when we lost an NJSIAA state tournament game to rival Trenton that same winter. But on Thursday, February 2nd this year, I saw one of the most spectacular sporting events in the Montgomery High School gymnasium I've ever seen. The final score of the senior night was 90-35. The opponent was the Thomas Edison Energy Smart Charter School. At the end of the second quarter, the Thomas Edison players appeared discouraged. Then, all of a sudden, the climate of the game pivoted. Our notorious student spectator section was clever, as always, with their cheers and chants for the Cougars players. But by the end of the third period, however, our student fans were cheering for both teams. And they were silent during every free throw. Monty was profoundly winning, so the student cheering section was full out celebrating every basket scored and every great play by both teams' players. Despite being down by a significant number of points, Thomas Edison started to get into it. They seemed to be enjoying the cheers as much as the fans enjoyed cheering. During the fourth period, the court turned into a gymnastics basketball game with players from the Thomas Edison team performing cartwheels and James Brown-like jump splits. Our fans went crazy. Every spectator, player, coach, and parent was smiling, and some were crying from laughing so hard. So there was lots of laughter, joy, and more laughter. Many of us never experienced what took place that senior night. The fourth period buzzer sounded, indicating the end of the game. The score didn't matter. Montgomery won the game, but the opponent won our hearts. Our student fans were taking pictures with the players from both teams. And for those of you that attend a Montgomery varsity basketball team knows that this does not occur. So it was a unique and jovial moment. Later that night, while celebrating with the senior parents at Tiger's Tail, I was told that the Thomas Edison coach approached our coach Grundy to tell him, my players had the most fun they've had all season long, so thank you. Apparently, Thomas Edison doesn't have a home gym, so all their games this past season were away. So, they didn't know what it's like to have their peers cheer for them, but that senior night, they did. So it is my hope, and that of the photographer mom, I'm sure, that everyone who attended that game remembers the power of kindness and generosity and empathy. I don't know if I would have seen that in the Monty High School gym 10 years ago. So thank you to all the district staff for prioritizing DEI. You've made a difference, and as a result, a memory of joy rests in the minds and hearts of a lot of people. And just a shameless plug, always remember, family never graduates. So, where did, do you have that on the screen? I just wanted to share a 25-second video. Here it comes now. Just so you can see what took place that evening. It might not play. You did? It didn't play when you So that was really enjoyable to watch. All students from all walks of life just enjoying each other and supporting each other. That does not occur at a typical varsity basketball game. So now, approval of the minutes. So it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the following board meetings. Number 1, January 24th, 2023, executive session meeting. And number 2, January 24th, 2023, business meeting. So I'd like a motion to approve the aforementioned Board of Education meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Acting Board Secretary Palumbo, roll call please.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Dowling.
Yes.
Ms. Pelak.
Yes.
Ms. Franco-Herman.
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Spina.
Yes.
Mr. Todd.
Yes.
Ms. Wallach-Jernigan.
Yes.
Dr. Spence-Wallace.
Yes. There's a lot of activity taking place behind me right now. So at this time, the Board of Education acknowledges the correspondence to the board. There are 25. And at this time, I feel it's my responsibility to note for procedural reasons. The formal address to the Montgomery Township Board of Education is boardofed@mtsd.us, so BDOFED@mtsd.us. And it is the correspondence received at that email address is the correspondence that is included on our monthly open public meeting agenda. All right, so we've also arrived for a second public comment specific to our action agenda, and I will read the instructions at this time. So members of the public are allotted one opportunity to address the board regarding the action agenda for up to a maximum of 3 minutes during this period of the meeting. All comments or questions must be directed to the board chair. The board chair may need to refer an issue to the superintendent if the particular issue has not been handled through the appropriate chain of command within the school district before coming to the board for a response. Responses may be provided at the end of this session. So Acting Board Secretary Palumbo, the second public comment specific to the action agenda begins now.
Francine Pfeffer again, and since I actually started reading the HIB policy, which is on the action agenda, I just want to point out to you that since I'm here, in page 3, the last paragraph of section B, I think it is, it's a really long policy, I didn't get through very much of it, but it says, in accordance with the Board of Education's Code of Student Conduct in this policy, all acts of harassment, intimidation, or bullying that occur off school grounds, such as cyberbullying, e.g. the use of electronic means to harass, intimidate, or bully, is addressed in this policy, and that is should be an R. Just fixing your grammar for the record, since I read the first 3 pages of the HIB report. You know where that is now?
Yep, yeah. Subject under
Sorry, I'm a grammar nut.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I will publicly say my name is Rich Speck. I live at 187 North Street, Bellevue, New Jersey, and I will write it in the book.
187.
Yeah. It's a 1 block long street.
Murder was the case he gave me.
So I'm standing to, I noticed the personnel agenda this evening has some interesting things in it, and Ms. Franco Herman mentioned a couple of them. And so one of them, obviously, is that the business administrator, it looks like, from what I read here, has resigned effective towards the end of March. I don't obviously know what happened, or if there was a reason. My impression was that he was staying through the end of the year. So I obviously think that that's a blow to the district. As far as I've heard, there was not someone who's been hired to replace him. It was announced tonight that you're in the middle of budget preparation, it just seems like that's problematic. So if there are any comments, obviously it's a personnel item, so I should assume that there's not a lot that can be said, but I just want to raise concerns about that. I also noticed that, as was said, Mr. Richards is resigning, and I notice if it's approved that Mr. Delgado seems to be taking a different position. I don't know the details there, but it seems like you're going to have 2 principal vacancies, as well as a BA vacancy, as well as trying to get things happening, and all I can say is I wish you good luck. Because as a resident of this township since 1981, obviously a lot has changed over the time. I think that this is a real challenging time, so good luck.
I'm here to address the harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy. There was a lot of changes that I could find, but I don't know if I found them all. So I was just wondering if you could tell us when you will have like the underline or the crossing, I don't know. Is that red line? Thank you. If you could let us know when that will happen, because this policy was like gutted. So I
We just
appreciate it.
rearranged that one, actually.
There was a lot of different words in there added too. Like I had to use special software to even that show me all the changes. Thank you.
So that will conclude our second action agenda items, public comment. All right, so now it's time for the board of education to vote on the action agenda. So first, I'd like a motion to approve the action agenda items. I think it's 1.1 to 4.3.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. So acting board secretary Palumbo, roll call please.
Sure. Mr. Carlson? Ms. Dowling?
Yes.
Ms. Belak?
Are we voting on the reimbursement as well, because this is something?
You're going to abstain from your portion of 3.4.
So should I say?
You can still say yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, yes.
Ms. Franco-Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Just a correction, I abstain as well. That was not for last meeting, where this is from earlier today.
No, we voted on those minutes already. Now we're voting on the action agenda
For
items.
tonight, okay.
Should we vote
Yes.
for this?
Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Ms. Wolaka-Jernigan?
Yes.
Dr. Spence-Wallace?
Yes, and I'll abstain from 3.4.
Motion carries. Now we're going to need a second, a separate motion to appoint Peter Fallon Esquire to conduct an independent investigation for the Board of Education for $175 an hour, not to exceed $4,000. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to do a roll call. Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Dowling?
Yes.
Ms. Belak?
Yes.
Ms. Franco-Herman?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Spina?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Ms. Wolaka-Jernigan?
Yes.
Dr. Spence-Wallace?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. So we've reached the conclusion of our Montgomery Township School District Board of Education open public meeting on this day, Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. We appreciate all of those that have participated. We extend our gratitude and thank those for your presentation, Ms. Gaylord, and congratulations again, we issue to the National Merit Scholars semi-finalists and finalists. Should there be no objection, I'd like a motion to adjourn this meeting at this time.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night.